Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Dirty Forks MTB.
Oh, nice.
Dirty Forks! That is so smooth.
So this is going to be the last video for the series titled The Beginner's Path to New Bike Day. So we're going to just quickly talk about the second bike and the specifications for the components on the Specialized chisel. Now, this was the XC pick, the bike that I picked for that's really good value entry-level XC. So I'm not going to go through every component detailed like I did with the Rocky Mountain because they're pretty much the same. Where the difference is with XC is mostly in the geometry. Now, I already did a shallow dive on geometry on one of my videos, which I will link in the description. Actually, I'll put all the videos to the entire series in the description. And then one of these days I'll make it into a playlist, but I will link the videos in the description, so check those out. You might want to start with video number 1 if you're just tuning into this series. Maybe not, don't start here, start at video number 1. It's important to follow 1 through each part because they just go in succession and it'll make more sense. So the Specialized chisel 2022 2023 version. Again, we already talked about frame geometry. All right, you can change any component on a bike, but you cannot change the frame. You can't change the geoframe. Once you buy the bike, the frame comes with the bike, obviously, and you can't change that. So all this component stuff can be changed. On the rear dropouts is a 12 mil by 148 mil, which is what you want to see. That's the same as before. It is dropper post compatible, which is funny because pretty much every bike is dropper post compatible, at least the newer ones anyway. It is a 30.9 millimeter diameter for the seat post, which is a common diameter. And that's what you want because you want to be able to put a dropper on this if, you know, in the future. Because even with a cross-country bike, I always recommend a dropper. Dropper posts are like one of the best innovations for bikes I think they've come up with in a very long time. So yeah, check out the dropper post. But this bike does not come with a dropper because it is XC. And technically speaking, XC riders, they don't ride droppers. But a lot of people are starting to do that. So the fork is a 100 millimeter travel. And this is pretty much standard on entry-level XC bikes. 100 mil is enough for XC trails, really, because you're not really going to ride this bike too much. At least it's not intended purpose is to ride as a trail bike. So you're going to see 100 mil travels on these types of bikes. If like we said in the past video on trails and getting to know your system of trails, you want to know what trails you're going to ride. If you live in a place that has really like gnarly, chunky trails, an XC bike's probably not going to work for you unless you have an XC trail system at your disposal. So this is something that you want to be careful of because this is one of the differences with component spec on an XC compared to a trail bike, like our trail bike that we've been talking about, which is the Rocky Mountain Growler 40, which has 140 mil travel on the fork. So there's a big difference there. 40 mils doesn't sound like a lot, but it's huge when it comes to a bike. Again, this fork has a 15 by 110 mil, so it's a boost spacing, and this is great. This is normal for this type of bike. That means it has a through axle. That's what you want to see. You want to see through axles front and rear. And then the cockpit, it's the same pretty much as our Growler. But the brakes on this one are SRAM level T's. So you do get a little bit of a better brake, maybe than the Shimano MT200. I'd say they're probably about the same, except SRAM is not Shimano. But SRAM and Shimano, they compete neck and neck all the time with all their stuff they come out with. So it's a pretty good braking system that's on this bike. It is a 2-piston caliper, of course. We're not going to see 4-piston on this price point. So SRAM brakes are usually, they run a little bit like a softer feel to the brakes. They usually have more modulation, where Shimano brakes are the on-off feel. So yeah, SRAM brakes, people say you either love them or hate them. So yeah, SRAM level T's on here. It's pretty good spec. Drivetrain, we got SRAM drivetrain. So SX, SX, SX Eagle. It's all like the Dior comparison. I personally prefer Dior though. I've heard a lot of things about SRAM, especially their lower level, which this SX is their lower level. But you can't go right. It's got a power spline bottom bracket on here, so that's good. It's a spline. It's not a square taper. It's got that going for it. It is an 11 to 50 tooth cassette, and it's 12 speed instead of the like an 11 or a 10 speed. So 12 speed is very, very modern spec. You're not really going to go wrong with this drivetrain, really, to be honest with you, especially with a beginner, like a budget value beginner's bike. We got for wheels, we got the Specialized. Again, it's all proprietary wheels on here, hubs. It doesn't look like there's much going on for hubs here. So this kind of says to me, okay, well, maybe it's Formula hubs on here. So just bear in mind that. Not really gonna see bike brands, bike manufacturers spec higher than Formula on their bikes, although we did see a higher spec hub on the Rocky Mountain Growler. And then we've got the T5 compound fast track control casing for the tires is 29er by 2.35. That's like a standard XC width tire. And then the 29 wheel diameter is good. You're gonna be able to roll over everything and anything. It's gonna be a fast rolling bike for sure with these tires and those sizes of wheels on there. So yeah, that's it for the Specialized. So, you know, obviously, if you watched the last video, we just concentrated on the Rocky Mountain Growler. This video, we talked a little bit about the Specialized and the difference between the two, between the trail bike Rocky Mountain Growler 40 and the XC cross country bike Specialized Chisel. Quite a bit of a difference in the frame geometry, but not much of a difference in the component specifications. So now let's just quickly talk about upgrades. So my suggestion, my humble opinion and suggestion to you all is when you finally decide on a bike, because remember, I'm not saying that you should buy these bikes specifically. These videos are mostly about this is what you should look for in a value bike. But when you finally decide on your bike, just ride it stock for at least the first season. So the people that are watching this video, they've already had a bike. They bought like a cheap bike at a box or whatever, or you just had one like floating around in your garage and decided to use it during COVID probably, and now you like mountain biking, so you want a better bike. You're progressing, and then you want something that is going to be able to progress with you. That's the whole point of this. That's the whole point of buying a bike shop brand bike. That's the whole point of spending $2,000 on a bike. You know, if you want starter components that are going to last and going to progress with you, then this is where you need to start. So in saying that, upgrading, probably the best upgrades you can make on your bike are brakes, front suspension, and wheels, tires. Those are probably, arguably, the best places you could upgrade your bike. But don't do that on the first year, first season. Don't do it yet. Wait at least one season, so that when you start progressing like crazy on your new bike and you're loving it and you just want to ride all the time, then the following season, or better yet, wait 2 seasons. So the third season in, you might want to look at, okay, I need better suspension or I need better brakes. I would say out of the 4 upgrades that I mentioned, probably wheels should be your last upgrade. But I would say just ride it stock for at least the first season, better yet, first 2 seasons, and then make decisions on what you want to do. By then you'll be more experienced, you'll have more time in the saddle under your belt, and you'll better understand your riding style and your riding abilities. So I had a comment on my last video saying how much they appreciated these videos. I really love hearing from our audience. And he said, well, why don't you do a comparison with these bikes and a box store bike, like a Canadian Tire bike or a Walmart bike? People want to know, well, why should I buy a bike shop brand bike as opposed to a box store? Well, because the components on a box store bike weigh a ton. The fork that comes on a box store bike, like a big box store bike, will be always a coil fork. I've never seen an air fork on a big box store bike, ever. So a coil fork that is not meant to be serviced. Cheapest going bottom brackets ever. Usually it's not even a cartridge. The spindle is just inside the bottom bracket with the bearing on either side, and then the compression bolts, and it's square taper, which is fine. But it works, but it needs to be serviced regularly, like at least twice a year. With a cartridge, you can get away with once a year because you're not taking the cartridge apart. You're taking the cartridge out, you're servicing the threads that are in there. So cleaning out the shell, servicing the threads, putting new grease on, putting the Loctite or the thread lock on, and then putting it in, and it's good to go. There's much more to service on a non-cartridge bottom bracket. Usually those bikes are just spec'd with the cheapest components you can possibly get. And to make matters worse, not only are they the cheapest components, but they've got them for even cheaper because they buy in such mass quantities. And also the big kicker here is the way that those bikes are put together. They're put together by people that don't know how really to put a bike together properly. I don't know how many bikes come to me last year and the year before for servicing, Canadian Tire bikes and Walmart bikes. That was the majority of the bikes that I fixed last year and the year before, because people don't want to pay bike shop prices for repair work or service work, because those prices usually are more than what their bike is actually worth. So yes, you can find people like me in the community that will fix your bike for $40 or whatever, but chances are likely that those parts are going to rust. They're not going to shift properly. They're going to have the grip shifters instead of the trigger shifters. I swear by trigger shifters, okay? Don't buy a bike that has a grip shifter. They are the most useless shifters ever invented. I hate them. Unless you get like a SRAM shifter. I've seen those a lot. I've serviced those shifters, taken them apart, and what I see I like in those shifters. They work well. The Shimano Dior twist shifter, they're okay too. You can get a Shimano Altus Rapid shifter either 7, 8, or 9, or even a 10 speed for like 40 bucks. So it's super easy to change a shifter out. If you've got a grip shifter, I always recommend to people that come in, you got to get a trigger shifter on your bike and get rid of this bloody grip shifter that's all seized and hard to turn. You see them all the time on kids' bikes, and I will never understand why they put grip shifters on kids' bikes, because they seize and they're almost impossible for a kid to shift with. And you really can't learn proper shifting with a grip shifter. And then if you're on the trails and you have a grip shifter and you're going through chunk and stuff, you might hit that shifter and then your bike either shifts down or up, and then you can actually get yourself into trouble with those things. But anyway, stay away from grip shifters. And when I say stay away from those, then it's pretty much stay away from the box store bikes, because they all have grip shifters on them. 95% of them do anyway. So those bikes come with grip shifters. Those bikes also come with 3x. So a 3x chainring up front, and usually it's a 7-speed in the back. It's all freewheels. It's not a cassette. It's hard. It's just really that much harder to service. And if you're buying a bike there that's really hard to service, you're less likely to get it serviced, because it's going to cost more to service it, and therefore it's going to cost more than what your bike is worth. So we're seeing a huge decline in bike sales right now in the used market. So as soon as you walk out of that store and you paid $400 for that bike at Walmart, let's say, and you walk out of that store, that bike's now worth 200 bucks, if that. Like literally. It's like a car, right? You drive it off the lot, loses like $5,000. So you're better off to take that $400, wait, save an extra $400, ride the bike you have right now, save $800 at least. If you can't or don't want to spend $2,000, save at least $800 to $1,000. Go in a bike shop. You can still get a bike shop brand bike for that amount of money. The Trek Marlin 6 is a great starter bike. So, and I think that one starts around $1,000. It's on sale right now with Trek Fest, but that's beside the point. So the point of this video series is spend what you can, save what you can, be patient with what you have, and make sure that whatever you get, make sure it's future-proof, at least the geometry of the frame. Components, it's okay. Geometry of the frame cannot be changed. Components can be changed. A bike shop brand bike, components can be serviced. I just finished servicing my son's RockShox. I took it all apart, everything, the spring, everything, and it needed it badly. A shop would charge $100 for that. Some shops in this region don't even service shocks or forks. They send them out. So you can imagine what the cost of that would be. So the point of it is those components can be serviced. You don't have to buy new. You spend $400 at a big box store for a bike, chances are likely the following year or the year after, you're going to be buying another bike if you really get into it. So what's the point? Save your money, buy a bike shop brand bike. Okay, I know. There's people out there, and I get it. Money's tight. Times are tight. Times are interesting still. Not everybody has $2,000. Not everybody can save that. To those people, just buy what you can afford then. Whatever gets you out on the trails and puts a smile on your face. Just know that if you really get hooked on it and you get the MTB bug like most people do, that bike is probably not going to be suitable for very long. So just know that. I'm speaking to you honestly here. I'm not, trust me, I'm not full of money. I'm not made of money. I don't have very much expendable income at all. So when I say this, I truly mean it, because if you're going to spend your money, you might as well spend it on something that is going to be an investment and see you through. All right, so enough of that, enough of this series. On to other things. Next video, I have no idea when it will be posted. Right now, life is insane for me. We're in March, and it is Saturday the 25th today of March, and next thing you know, it's going to be April, and I've got a ton of stuff I got to do before I even thinking about making another video. So things are changing. Let's just put it that way, like big time changing. So stay tuned, and I think the tone of this channel might be changing as well. But we're still gonna be love what you ride, no matter what it is. We're still gonna be the father and son duo. And except for he hates these videos because he calls me a nerd neck when I start talking like this. But riding father and son, and it's probably going to be a little bit less on the fixie side of bikes. But stay tuned. There's all kinds of changes coming up. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the series. If you haven't seen the rest of the series, please watch the rest of the series. And give us a like and a subscribe. We always appreciate you. And please leave your comments. I love hearing yay or nays. All right, take care. See you on the next one.